Hello and welcome back to another early adopter edition. And in this episode, we're going to talk about my first journal. So let's get started. Ever start a project, package, or diagram and want to settle quickly on what will the diagram, package, or even project represent? Enterprise Architect provides a great facility for managing your daily log of ideas, comments, notes, suggestions, events, to-do lists, and so much more. With a selected element or diagram, you have the option to put your intent in a journal. So we're going to go to the Start tab here, and here in Collaborate, we see Journal. We also see something in the Personal panel called Diary. My diary is separate from journal. My diary is personal. If you're in a team environment, your team can share the journal, and we're going to access those, show you different ways of accessing the journal in just a moment. But I first want to make clear what my diary is. We're going to go ahead and select this, and in the default layout for me, it pops up in the upper right. I am going to move chat and mail to the center of the screen. And my diary is a tab in chat and mail where you have model mail and you have chat. We'll talk about these in later subjects, but what I want to do is focus on my diary, right? When we get to journal, I'm going to go ahead and select journal. It comes up in discuss and review window. And you see here, we have journal, discuss, and review. We've talked about discuss quite a bit in this channel. We'll talk about review in a later session. Today we're focused on journal. So it's very important to understand the difference between these two as you are getting into journals. This one's personal, this one's team. I wanted to make sure I brought that up first because I keep running into teams where they're doing entries in my diary and then wondering why the team is not seeing their journal entry. So be clear and get focused, and we're going to talk about journal only in this session. So let's continue. There's a few ways to access the journal, and you can do that from almost any element. These browser elements over here, these browser packages, I will call these elements. This is an element. This diagram is an element. Even this association is an element, but you cannot journalize on a connector, at least not yet. So what we're going to do, we created a package. We're going to right click on this, and in Collaborate, we're going to select Journal. And we get this window that pops up here that has Journal, Discuss, and Review. So we're focused on Journal. So when you start a package, it's a good idea to journalize what that package is about. When you start a diagram, you can see it change. Start a diagram, start a journal. What's the diagram? What's the model? What ideas do you have for this particular model? When you start an element, start a journal on it. You can see that as I move between element and diagram and package, the journal changes. When it comes to connectors, this is realization, but any type of connector, you can't journal on that. We're not getting any entry or the ability to use the journal. However, what I'll do on the source or the target is I will create a journal entry that discusses the association, the connector between the relevance, if you will, between these two elements. I will use the journal to outline, because there could be multiple connections between this. There could be a dependency, right? There could be so many more. And you're able to talk about the connector types. You could talk about realization. You could talk about dependencies within the journal. It's a great place to do that. When we go to my diary on this, the window changes. And again, I just want to be clear, collaborate, journal, and that's how you access. That's one way to access it, right? Let me close, discuss and review, go back to properties here. And the other way is to go to start and then come over to collaborate panel, hit the down caret and hit journal. And yet another way, you may be in a discussion or even a review, and you can see that the journal tab is next to it. So if you're having a discussion and it triggers an idea, you can go to the journal, or this will be for today, and then all of your entries, you can filter them out by dates of when journal entries are done over a period of time. And then there's something called journal history. So we're on the start tab, we're going back over to collaborate panel, we're going to down click here, journal history, and I'm in the default layout. And so it pops up below the work area down here. And so you can see today we've had journal entries for the package right here. And then you can see we have one for the diagram by the icon. And we have one for this activity and this activity. Now, if I'm selecting these, this is not changing. But if I double click on it, you can see this is refreshed and updated. So double click on the diagram, you can see the journal for the diagram. Double click on the activity 1, you can see the journal for that activity. So journal history, and there's multiple tabs. You can look at discussion history, there's nothing here, review history and chat history. We're focused on journal. You're able to access who the author was of the journal entry, when it was modified, when it was posted, and then what type of element is the journal entry on. Let's talk about some other features around the journal. So let's say I'm on the diagram right here, right? So you can see the journal entry is about the diagram. And what I want to do is go up to this hamburger menu up here. We're going to select it. We're going to pin this journal. It locks it in place. I could be on a very complicated diagram that I've got ideas on, and no matter what I select, it does not go off of that conversation. So I can maintain a journal consistently here without losing it each time that I select something within the diagram, within the browser, or anywhere else within the model, as long as discuss and review focus on the journal is open. Then when you're done with that, want to move on to something else, go to the hamburger again, unpin journal, and then when you start selecting other items, the diagram, the package, the journal will stay in sync with the item you have focused on. The other items that are here, manage journal documents. This is a more advanced subject area. It's not that complicated. It's just not in scope for this episode. And then you can see, show how many elements, because if you're in a large project and entries and you've got, I'm on projects where there's 80 different modelers and there's a lot going on and I want to limit to a certain amount. Here it's by default select all. I can certainly take it down to 3, 7, or 15, so on. Then you have the ability to save journal to file. And when it says save journal to file, it's only saving the journal you're focused on. So let's go here, let's go here. And then we've got a path that we're going to save it to, saving as a rich text format. And we're going to choose all. If you had a lot going on, current entry only, current entry count, if you set a count on how many journals that you wanted to look at over that period of time, you could set limit to, and you could also look, I only want to see journals between these date ranges. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and hit OK. And basically this is now saved to whatever that target source is you have. And it's a pretty simple, we only have one in here. So this file is called my journal RTF. And then these are the entries that are going to show when you're running that particular report. The project manager is going to use this quite a bit throughout the life cycle of the project, get an understanding of lessons learned, entries, and expertise as they're going through. The next item in the menu is set this tab as default. Now, I don't use this feature, not even sure if it works anymore, but what you're doing when you set this tab as default, and if you need help, just go ahead and select help and you go right to Sparx Help Center on the journal topic. When you're in the journal window, you can right click and you can refresh, and you can refresh and see journal entries from other stakeholders as soon as it refreshes, or you can set a timer to automatically refresh whatever you set it to. And you can copy to clipboard. I'm not going to do that. And again, you've got help capabilities that are here from Sparx. Next, let's go to discuss and review history window. And in here, if you right click anywhere in here, you get journal entries. It's another way to bring up the journal entry window. Right click again, visible time frame. So it's set to 90 days. So it's going to look for journal entries over 90 days, or today only, or other ranges, 2 days, 7 days, 30 days. The next one is check for update every, and then it's set to 2 minutes. So what it's going to do is it's going to refresh your journal every 2 minutes, and it's enabled. You can disable this if there's performance concerns or things like that, but I would leave it enabled, especially in a team environment. And then every 2 minutes is fine. You could certainly set it to 10. Maybe if you're getting in a project where you've got 80 plus modelers working on a large project, you might want to say, hey, I'm going to disable this, and then I'll come back and manually refresh it myself. Or I'm going to set it to 10 minutes because I don't want any latency or lag. It depends on your implementation, your configuration. If you have modelers that are coming in and you're working in a Sparx cloud environment from all around the world, you might want to change these settings, but otherwise I would leave the defaults. Let's right click again and show preview pane, left, right, bottom, hide. All right, let's just go left. So if you don't have this window up because you have other things you're focused on in a limited space, this feature is rather important because it allows you to select items and see the journal entry for that item. And we're only looking at today. So this is a nice feature to have. And you could certainly change that where that feature tab, let me right click out of an item, is on the right, is below. I don't like it on the bottom. I like it to the left or the right, but you can see that you can change that. And of course you can, if I can get myself a white space here outside of a model entry, hide it. I don't need to see it at all because I keep the journal entry open and I want to look at it here. But I have multiple monitors, very large workspace, so it's easy for me to use this capability here. But if you're on a notebook, small device, you might want to limit what your windows do within your work area and your workspace. We're going to right click the mouse again. Refresh does just what it says. It's going to refresh your history. Set this tab as default. We already talked about this. Not interested in it, you can play around yourself. And of course, you've got help if you need it from Sparx Help Center. Next, I want to cover team environment, what it might look like. So in this particular case, I have 3 different stakeholders logged into the same SQL project instance. So we've got a user called Carl Dev. We have another user called Dan Designer. And then we have me, UMLO. And so let's say that Dan comes in and wants to add in more to this journal entry. So as soon as Dan or Carl has done that, Dan doesn't see that entry until they refresh or whatever the timer is. We're going to go ahead and refresh. So now sees Carl's entry within Dan or his session view. So if I go to UML operator and it hasn't been 2 minutes or whatever the setting is that I did, let me go ahead and refresh. Now I see that entry. And so why this approach, this practice is important. You can see who's entering what. It's going to be today, and then tomorrow this will have a date on it, and you'll have a new today for journal entries. But that's how you can refresh and see journal entries as you're working with teams across a specific project. Congratulations, you just did my first journal, and I hope you found this episode beneficial, useful for what you're doing. And don't get overcomplicated on this. You can see it's just simple journal entries. If you're starting a project, you're starting a package, a diagram, or even element or elements, journals allow you to capture your thoughts. So put them down. My diary we'll talk about in another session. Just focus on journals and journalize what you're doing. It'll really help you pick up where you left off or what you were thinking about and so on. So until that next episode, happy modeling.